morning, everyone. Happy Friday, and thank you so much for joining us at our Tech Tips at 2 p.m. We usually have this Tuesday, but we decided to change it up a little and have it on a Friday. Today, the Information Technology Office will be partnering with Information Security. We have a few individuals who would love to share more information about LastPass Enterprise. And we are just so excited to be sharing this information. I know there's been a few questions around campus of what LastPass is, how to access that, and everything included with LastPass. So we have Lucas, who will be presenting mostly today. And Lucas, if you want to introduce yourself and just give us a little rundown of what you'll be talking about today, that would be most appreciated.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me today. And we're going to go over some information today regarding LastPass, which is our password management tool that the university offers. We're going to go over what is LastPass. We're going to go over how to get started using LastPass. We're also going to get into some of the features of LastPass that you can use, how to create passwords and maybe share them. We're also going to touch base on some of the best practices for LastPass, creating passwords and things like that. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So we all use passwords in our day-to-day work. We also know that it's important to use complex passwords and unique passwords for different applications and appliances, especially those that might provide access to sensitive information or infrastructure. As we move forward in our jobs and our daily lives, we're required to create and remember more and more complex passwords. Some people, maybe they try to remember all their passwords. Some people may use similar or the same passwords from multiple resources. Some people might even write their passwords down either on paper or keep them on a text pad on their desktop. Doing some of those may actually put your passwords and your accounts at a greater risk of compromise. So to help with that and keeping track of all your passwords, we suggest maybe using a password manager that can help create and store your passwords in a single, safe, and secure location. Password managers can also be used to store and share accounts within an enterprise team. UTD has actually partnered with LastPass to provide an easy-to-use password manager for our campus. So to dive right in, if to create and get started with LastPass, you can begin with the Atlas self-service portal. If you're not sure where to get that or how to find that, if you search our UTD web pages for LastPass, you'll find a link that will take you straight to it. Once you sign into Atlas with your UTD account, you can select the option to enroll in LastPass Enterprise. There are also some options to enroll in LastPass for a personal account, as well as some instructions for requesting recovery help with your enterprise account if you should happen to need that. A personal LastPass account can be used to keep your passwords that are not related to UTD. A personal account may also be linked to your UTD enterprise account for ease of access to your passwords from any location. Please note that UTD cannot help with the recovery of a personal LastPass account, but also note that passwords and information saved to your personal account can't be viewed by anyone in the enterprise organization. As I step through, like I said, when you select the Enroll LastPass, then you'll be forward to the next screen where you can actually click the Enroll button. Once you select the Enroll button, we'll pass on and you'll receive an email. You can select the option to enroll in LastPass, and you receive this email, and it will have a temporary master password that will be provided on your first sign-in. You would use this temporary password to sign in, and then you will be immediately prompted to create your own master password, which you would use to unlock your vault, update your passwords and such. So when creating a master password, which is what we use to unlock their vault, it's important to make the password complex. some suggestions for creating a complex password might be to use a passphrase with multiple types of characters. It shouldn't match any other passwords that you currently use or might have used in the past. It's important to make sure this one is unique. There are some examples of a strong, complex password. If you'll notice this password we have on there, it's over 30 characters. It has both uppercase and lowercase. It has some numbers, and it also has symbols. The length of this password is important because the longer the password, the more difficult it would be to actually crack. So long passwords, make them unique and complex as possible, and that's a great place to start. Once your master password is set, you'll have the opportunity to download the LastPass browser plugin. This will allow you to save and create passwords on the fly from your browser. As you complete password fields, you'll be offered an opportunity to add the password to your LastPass vault. LastPass also offers a desktop client which can be installed. The desktop client will work in conjunction with your browser plugin to save passwords, and it can also be used apart from the browser. For example, if you have a browser open that does not support LastPass or doesn't have the LastPass plugin installed, you could open the vault from your desktop and retrieve and manage your passwords that way. So it's just two different ways that you can access your vault. Logging in is pretty simple. Once you have created your master password and you have your browser plugin installed or the desktop client downloaded and installed, you can simply hit the login button and sign in with your newly set master password, and that will take you to your vault, your LastPass vault. Exploring the vault. When you sign in, you'll have an option to open your password vault. From there, you can view and manage your saved passwords. You can additionally, you can add information notes or even bank account information. If you'll notice on the left-hand side, there's a bunch of different options. The notes stored in your encrypted vault and important information. There's also an option to link your LastPass accounts. If you have a personal account set up, like we mentioned before, you can select the link and add your personal passwords to your vault. Remember that your vault is yours alone, and no one can see your information unless you explicitly share it with them. Linking your personal account will only add your passwords to your vault and no one else's. If you have the LastPass plugin installed on your favorite browser, you can begin adding passwords automatically to your vault. Simply add your username and passwords to a password field and with the LastPass icon, and LastPass will ask you if you would like to import the password. So for example, if you're signing into a normal resource and you have the LastPass plugin installed, when you enter the password, you'll get a little pop-up from LastPass that will ask if you want to store that password in your vault, and you can either select yes or no. Alternately, if you are creating an account, so if you're using a new password if it's a new service, so if you're signing up for a new service, you can use LastPass to actually generate a new complex password for you. When you select the LastPass icon, you have an option to change the complexity of the password as well, and then it will be saved to your vault once you complete the sign-in process. Some websites require a more complex password, so you can change the number of characters, uppercase, lowercase, and numbers, and things like that. I think by default, it's a pretty complex password, so you should be all set. For sharing passwords, there's a couple of different options for sharing. You can share an individual password with multiple people in your department. There is also an option to share that account for those who would have access. Under the Sharing Center is where you would find that you can create and share account passwords with team members. There's also an option to create a shared folder. So what you might do is you might create a shared folder, and then this could contain multiple entries for accounts and or information. You could also include some ownership rules, such as making accounts read-only to prevent users from updating the shared information. In this way, if you had a lot of people on your team, or more than one person, several people, you could actually share a set of passwords or information with those users, all sort of in one swoop. And you can manage who has access and what sort of access they have. As has been mentioned before, you can link your personal LastPass account to your UTD vault. Our agreement with LastPass includes a LastPass families account. Also, as I mentioned, linking your LastPass accounts would not show your personal account passwords to anyone in the organization. And additionally, UTD would not be able to provide any kind of recovery for a personal account. We can only help for our enterprise accounts. So this is just a quick recap of what we covered so far. We've gone over creating unique master passwords, adding passwords to sites, updating passwords, going over some of the shared password options. And I believe that there should be some links at the end here for knowledge base articles and things like that. I also wanted to take just a minute too and address what some people may have heard about LastPass recently, either in the news or from the university. So we're going to go ahead and just get right into that. As some of you might have heard, LastPass announced in December that they had identified a breach which included customer data. Our Chief Information Security Officer, Nate Howe, issued the following incident response to address the issue and provide some advice to our users currently using the LastPass service. The letter will be available to review in the slides after the presentation if you didn't receive the email already. But I'll go over a few of the key points here. In December of last year, LastPass announced that criminals had gained access to their systems and they were able to obtain copies of encrypted user vaults, site URLs, and even customer IP addresses. Some user data, such as master passwords, are not stored in the LastPass systems. This will likely slow down access, as encrypted vaults would need to be cracked for access. Given enough time, though, it is possible that the criminals could gain access to encrypted vaults. As a precaution, the ISO suggests LastPass users take the precaution of changing passwords for high-value accounts, such as accounts used in password reset sequences. For example, if an attacker were able to gain control of a primary email or a mobile phone account, they might be able to then change multiple accounts and lock the original account owner out. The ISO also recommends that passwords used for IT systems and administration be updated. Critical accounts with administrators or root access should also be changed. People are encouraged to change their master passwords as well, being sure to use the complex format. And I'm just going to read the last paragraph here. It says, while changing passwords can be a frustrating task, it can disrupt access criminals achieved and invalidate password lists visible on the dark web. Though it is unfortunate that the LastPass incident forced us to consider changing passwords, it can be beneficial to reduce security risk. While we continue to monitor communications from LastPass and update our guidance accordingly. So thank you, Nate, for sending that email out. And again, like I said, if anybody has any questions or wants to review that, we'd be happy to share with that. And then on to our resources and survey. Again, these slides should be available for anybody who is interested after the presentation. It seems, there we go. I've gone through it pretty quick, but it is pretty straightforward. If anybody has any questions, then they are more than welcome to reach out. We do have a Q&A section that's available and open here in this session for anybody that has any questions.
We do actually have a question. Someone asked, can you point to instructions on how to add the 2FA?
I don't know that I have that detailed out here in these instructions. There are instructions that are available online, both from LastPass and through UTD.
Nick, did you have something to add as well?
So on that, I'm not sure if that's currently set up so that people can enable that themselves with like Duo, because Duo is a different system. However, you can send us an email and we can get your LastPass account connected to Duo, and that is a thing that we plan to try to get people aware of, or even turn on by default. Now we've actually, I think we had LastPass before Duo even. So, somebody's mentioned that they were able to add it themselves. So yeah, you can do it yourself, or you can reach out to us and we will help you. We'll take that as a takeaway to see about getting the documentation that's on the website updated to include those instructions specifically.
We had another question, Lucas or Nick, which is a great question. What's the difference between enrolling in LastPass Enterprise versus LastPass Personal?
I can elaborate on that as well. So the main difference is what UTD can do with it. The personal LastPass is basically a deal where because UTD is paying for the enterprise version, LastPass allows as a benefit to that people who are associated with the university, be it faculty, staff, or students, can enroll personal LastPass accounts for the premium features for free. There are some, like there I don't remember exactly what the differences are. I think it's some of the shared password stuff with your friends and family. But yes, the at the end of the day, the biggest difference for the end user is you should keep work stuff in the UTD LastPass and personal stuff in your personal LastPass. You can link them together. LastPass makes it like I only log into my UTD account, but it has access to my personal account in one section. So my personal passwords still work. I don't have to log in and log out. That's very convenient. And I just make sure to drag and drop my personal passwords into my personal account and vice versa. Yeah, and then as for the recovery side, we can't do anything to help recover personal accounts. We have no access to them. We can't see any information in them. But the UTD enterprise accounts, we do have processes where we can attempt password recoveries and attempt to get the data back, depending on how the data has been lost. Due to the nature of the encryption type, there are ways that are extremely, extremely rare that I've never seen where things can get corrupt and have to be restored from backups that may not contain like the last week's worth of passwords or something because the password file itself became corrupt. Again, I've never seen that, but that is just the nature of this type of encryption. That if that math messes up, then there's no recovery, and you get that with pretty much any password escrow that does a good job of not having a backdoor. And I think that's the main points. If there's any follow-up questions or any of my colleagues think I missed anything.
We did have another question. Are LastPass personal data account data stored in the cloud or on the system from which the personal account was set up?
Technically, that's the answer to that is yes to both. The LastPass Vault lives in the cloud for syncing purposes, but it is downloaded to the devices that have been successfully logged into as well. In fact, one of the ways, for example, to recover a personal LastPass account requires you to do the recovery from a device that knows about your account that has successfully logged in the past. There are ways to import. There's another question just came in. Is there a way to import passwords from another system like 1Password? I can't speak to 1Password specifically, but yes, there are support for plenty of password managers, both in importing and exporting from LastPass. So if you ever want to switch your personal account, or UTD decides to move on to a new vendor, we will have ways to export that data and import it into new systems and vice versa. And actually, I would say one more thing on that. LastPass, actually, specifically LastPass, and I assume other vendors, they have multiple ways to export stuff. And you want to be very careful when you export stuff, because often you can save that in a basically a clear text format, which is great temporarily, but you definitely don't want to have a clear text file out there for very long. But sometimes that is the only way to get from one system to the other, is you have to temporarily have a clear text copy, and then you just, make sure to secure delete it. On Windows and Mac, I think it's shift delete will do that for you.
Awesome. I know another question that would pop up is, if you're a student and you graduated, or if you're faculty staff that left, is there a time period where you can go and collect those passwords before your account closes, or what's the kind of system there?
Yeah, currently, due to the nature and security of the system, there are no automated processes involved with doing that, but we have internal procedures and processes for assisting with that, and we are looking to increase the documentation around that in a personal, and I think my computer might have disconnected there. So yes, the short answer is your passwords should not just mysteriously disappear. You should not be kicked out of stuff. If you no longer have access to your UTD email address, you will eventually lose the free premium features on your personal account, because I believe every year you have to click a link that is sent to your EDU address that says basically I'm still associated with UTD. But other than that, it's a very stable system is the best word I can come up with, in the sense that automated processes aren't going to destroy people's passwords, I think, is the part that people want.
So a quick add-on to that. If you are using the UTD portion of LastPass, so the enterprise version, if you are no longer associated with the university, you would lose access to that. However, if you have a personal account and those passwords, your personal passwords, are linked to UTD, you would not lose access to that. As Nick said, your personal account would be downgraded from the premium families to just a regular free LastPass account. You'd have an opportunity to purchase the premium if you wanted to, but your password vaults would still be intact for your personal accounts, and you would be able to continue to access those for free if you wanted to in the future.
Another question that popped up is, do retirees have access also?
Currently, yes, and I don't see any reason that would change anytime soon, but I cannot speak for the future, and I'm sure we would handle that in time. But basically right now it's sort of attached. Most of the things that we do, like this or Box or other things, it's if you have email, you have access to this stuff. And currently retirees keep their email, so retirees would be able to keep their LastPass access, and we would hope that they would, transfer any UTD passwords to UTD people, and, have their personal passwords be over there, or, things like that.
Great, thank you.
That is the current state.
Okay. And that sounds great. Thank you. Oh, another question that popped up. For shared folders, can you pass the ownership to someone else if you leave?
Yes, that is the technicalities of it, can be edge cases depending on what you want to do and what you have set up. But the short answer, and one of the benefits, one of the reasons why we wanted to have a enterprise level solution for this is that very thing, so that departmental passwords can move with people. And we also have continuity of business processes shored up around that, so that if somebody leaves or the unfortunate things happen, those ownerships can be migrated with the business continuity of business procedure process.
So I know you can download a Chrome extension for LastPass on Google Chrome. Is there a similarity or something comparable to like Firefox or other web browsers?
I'm pretty sure they pretty much have a LastPass plugin for every browser under the sun that's Quotey Fingers mainstream. But I'm sure there will be ones where it doesn't, because that is one of the reasons why the full desktop client exists. But the big players, Firefox, Chrome, Opera, Edge, all of those have it, and a lot of the other browsers are Chromium based anyway. So
yeah, if you visit LastPass,
there is the mobile app. It's not my favorite, but it does exist.
Yeah, there is a mobile tab. Yeah, that is true. And yeah, if you visit the LastPass website, you can actually find the links for the downloads, and they'll give you the different browser extensions if you want to download those directly. Also, I think if you sign in, like with Firefox, then you're offered the Firefox plugin, at least in Windows. But there's Mac and Linux desktop applications available too.
We have another question that popped up. Say a criminal managed to de-encrypt your personal LastPass account. Does that mean they can immediately de-encrypt all other personal accounts? If you want to reset
that's
yourself.
where I'd say, if I understand the question correctly, yes, if you have your password saved and you don't change any of them, then and the bad guys do manage to crack the passwords, that will be like you logged in. And unfortunately, because of the offline nature, even with two-factor, that wouldn't help, because these bad guys also stole the software, so they can make their own internal LastPass environment if they want. Whether they will or they have the computing power to actually brute force it, the math involved, it's going to be much easier for them just to guess common passwords in mass. So if your password is password 123, they're probably already taking all the data. But if your password is relatively strong and not in a password database, then it's going to be a lot harder for a few reasons. At the end of the day, though, it is a non-zero risk, because the data does exist out there, which is why personally I started with I changed my Gmail account, because that's what I use to reset all other passwords, basically. I changed my UTD account. I changed all my admin stuff. I changed my banking. And then I basically, every week, I'm taking 5 passwords and changing them, or as I log into my bills and whatnot. And I just basically have done it that way, because I had a pretty secure password to begin with, so I'm not too worried. But they have more access to LastPass than I do, so I will assume that they can get in eventually. So I just want to stay ahead of it. I hope that answers the spirit of the question, and if not, I can elaborate. But unfortunately, the Teams is not showing me the Q&A that gets. Oh, I see it now. Sorry, I was on the wrong tab. Yeah, because basically at that point, if they get the personal LastPass, oh, sorry, let me read this again. Because if you just mean the passwords that are stored in the LastPass personal account, then yes. If you had your personal account linked to your enterprise account, for example, that wouldn't necessarily crack the enterprise password unless you had that saved in your personal account. Yeah, I guess I do want to. Oh, wait, we got another question just popped up. How big is the current UTD user base? I think it was, I don't remember. I feel like it was less than 300 currently. There has been heavy adoption in specific sub areas of UTD, but not all across UTD. I also want to mention, because I don't know if it came through clearly enough, so I want to have a closing statement, as it were, that the biggest benefit of using a password manager of any kind, be it LastPass or KeyPass, OnePass, name it, there's a million of them, is that it gives you the ability to much more easily manage and have different passwords for every site, usually randomly generated, so that you don't even have to actually know the password, which, because hundreds of them, and the passwords always end up getting breached eventually. So if you have individualized passwords for every single site, a single site getting compromised doesn't lead to all of your accounts being compromised. And that is the most powerful method for securing your general procedure, because they always take passwords and they throw them into dictionaries, and then they'll do like permeation attacks on them. So if you use a password that's similar, but you, like for Gmail, you add something about Gmail, but you have a core password, there's processes for brute forcing all of that. So having the randomly generated passwords for everything, and then a long security passphrase to protect your master password, that's a very long sentence. It doesn't even have to have many, like, you don't have to make it all leet speak or whatever they say. You don't have to replace all the O's with zeros, but make it a sentence from your favorite quote or something, and then add a couple of numbers you won't forget to the end, and just make it long, because computers don't care how complex the password is. It's all a matter of time. They're going to try every possible combination of characters, and the longer, more characters you use, and where supported, spaces are characters too. Some password sites will tell you not to use spaces, which you should always be suspicious of, because if somebody tells you can't use spaces, it means they're probably not encrypting your password.
Nick, we got another question if you want to read that, or Lucas.
No, so the vault is just one encryption key. That is your master password. There's one password that gets you into your vault. When your vault is decrypted, all of the data in the vault is decrypted. I think.
And to add to
that brings us to the same page.
To add to that, your personal vault is separate from your enterprise vault. Those are two different accounts. You link them, and by linking them, basically you see both of your accounts in the same client, like the same desktop client, but the actual vaults are separate.
Yeah, so in that particular example that Lucas just made, the two vaults and the passwords within are encrypted with separate keys. But in a single vault, it is one master password that is the encryption key, essentially, to unlock the entirety of the vault. It does not use separate encryption once you're inside of the vault.
I think the last question that I would have is, say that your account did get compromised. What are the steps to have your account recovered?
Well, that would depend on what account you're talking about, because for the LastPass account, you probably wouldn't know until like multiple of your accounts suddenly become compromised, in which case the process would really to be change all of your passwords as quickly as possible that you haven't already changed, because now your vault has been compromised. But if you mean like the LastPass, or sorry, the individual accounts, it's going to be depends on the provider. With UTD, you can call the help desk and they can help get you back in. Other vendors, it's going to vary based on their policies and processes.
Yeah, and account recovery would be more for if somebody were to misplace their password, or if they left the university for a period of time and came back and had forgotten their passwords or didn't have access to the original browser that they had used. Then we could do a recovery and have people get access to their account again. But in the event of a compromise, yeah, like Nick said, at that case, it would be a scenario where you'd want to be updating your passwords as quickly as you could.
Awesome, thank you. So if there's not any other questions, if there's any final statements, Nick or Lucas, you would like to make, we can go ahead and make it. One thing that I do have to say is I really appreciate the depth of knowledge that you two have provided this session. There's some things that I learned, and I really appreciate that. We do have the survey that's on the screen just to see how we did and to collaborate with ISO. OIT is very grateful and appreciative. On the screen, we have a couple of links. You can go ahead and click those for support or training or whatever that you're needing for your personal reasons. And then I also shared earlier the slide deck. If you did want to download that and have that for your personal use, go back and have that kind of as your personal manual, that would be great as well. But I really appreciate everyone coming out and on this Friday, and I hope that everyone has a great weekend and we're ending on, I think, a positive high note. Lucas or Nick, do you have anything that you'd like to say real quick?
I guess just to clarify, we are not saying you're required to use LastPass. We're more interested in you using a password manager and getting all your passwords to be different and to not reuse passwords, to not even use human passwords, randomize them. It's just, if you are going to use a password manager for UTD business, you should probably use LastPass because we have a contract. They are evaluated, and we have continuity business processes wrapped around it in case of emergency blurry glass situations. But we are by no means saying that everyone on this call or anybody has to go sign up for LastPass in any way, shape, or form. We have this is a tool that we are providing because it's much better than using the same password. I think that's about it.
Yep, that covers it for me too. Thanks for having us, by the way, and giving us a chance to talk about this.
Yes, and if you have any follow-up questions, you're welcome to email information security, or you can email the help desk. We will get to those as quick as we can, and we're happy to be there for everyone.